So last night's Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill event was certainly noteworthy for a variety of reasons, but one of those reasons involved the shock debut of Matt Cardona, former WWE Superstar Zack Ryder, former All Elite Wrestling wrestler as well. Matt Cardona made his shocking Impact Wrestling debut last night at Hard to Kill. Now, Matt Cardona made a surprise appearance at last night's Impact Hard to Kill event, competing against the Super X Cup tournament winner Ace Austin. Now, Ace Austin came out to the ring demanding that he be added to last night's triple threat match for the X Division Championship, since he believed he was the #1 contender after winning this year's Super X Cup tournament at Genesis. Now, in response to this, Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore came out and ended up offering a different opponent to Ace Austin in the form of the former Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona. Now, Cardona ended up winning the match via disqualification after Madman Fulton got involved in the match, but post-match, Matt Cardona was able to fight off both Impact Wrestling stars, landing radio silence on Madman Fulton. Now, Cardona has been everywhere, really, hasn't he, since he got released by WWE back in April after the budget cuts associated with the current pandemic. Now, Cardona, as I mentioned, was cut from WWE last year due to those budget cuts relating to the ongoing pandemic, but more recently, he made a handful of appearances for AEW All Elite Wrestling, teaming up with Cody Rhodes. He last competed at All Out back in September of 2020, but since then he hasn't appeared for AEW. Of course, at the time it was revealed that he only signed a very short-term deal with AEW. That involved, I think it was something like 6 appearances over the course of the summer, and then he didn't sign a new deal and he was once again a free agent. Now, this one was surprising. This one was very surprising. I think when it comes to Matt Cardona, I did a video, I think just before the end of the new year, and I spoke about these free agents that possibly Impact Wrestling could look to sign in 2021, and Matt Cardona was one of them. Now, at the time, I said Matt Cardona was one of those guys that Impact could go after because, again, we were aware of his AEW status. Obviously, he gets released by WWE. Then there's all of this hype. I mean, I've been doing Matt Cardona possibly going to Impact Wrestling videos all the way back to around June, July of last year, because I always felt he was such a fantastic fit for Impact Wrestling. So he gets released by WWE, goes to AEW, and I think a lot of people thought once he went to AEW, that was his chances of Impact over. Not because that he couldn't get in there, or not because he would have heat or anything like that. I just think, like most people thought, okay, right, he's in AEW, he'll be in there for the long term. He's close friends, very close friends with Cody Rhodes. He's very close friends with the Rhodes family. He now has inroads with all of the people there in AEW. Obviously, he did sign a short-term contract, but we've seen historically, since AEW's been a thing, that even if you come in on a short-term deal, even if you come in without a deal, eventually everyone stays with AEW. Eventually everyone signs a contract and they stay with All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. And it was surprising, to say the least, that he did go to AEW, but he didn't stay. That was a surprise element there, wasn't it? So once we got the news that potentially he could, he wasn't going to re-sign with AEW, or that his short-term AEW contract had expired, alarm bells, I think, started ringing in quite a few people's heads to say, you know what, an Impact Wrestling run isn't out of the question. Why isn't it out of the question? Because, of course, you have to look at the people involved there. Just in the same way that Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, is very close friends with Cody Rhodes, he's also very close friends, obviously, with Brian Myers. Brian Myers is currently in Impact Wrestling, so I felt that while Brian Myers is currently in Impact as a singles competitor, I felt that always the opportunity, whilst Matt Cardona was a free agent, that they could come in and possibly you could have a situation where Matt Cardona comes into team with Brian Myers to go after the Impact Tag Team Championships. I always felt that Matt Cardona is also close with Tommy Dreamer. We know that Tommy Dreamer behind the scenes is a producer as well. So I always felt all of that. There was certainly a possibility that Matt Cardona could come in. Now, when it comes to his appearance last night at Hard to Kill, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I think that people, rightfully so, were focused on Kenny Omega and the main event and the AEW and Impact Wrestling crossover, the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, the new commentary team that took place on the show, Madison Rayne departing. I mean, all of that stuff happened last night, and the Barbed Wire Massacre and all of those matches. Everyone, I think, was thinking, you know what, there is so much going on. Matt Cardona didn't even spring to their attention, didn't even spring to their mind. So that was certainly a surprise, but a welcome one, a very welcome one. I've said, when I've spoken about Matt Cardona possibly coming to Impact, I've said this a million times and I'll say it again. To me, Matt Cardona in Impact, he can be an Impact World Champion. There is no doubt in my mind, Matt Cardona in Impact, he can win a world title. In AEW, could he have become the AEW World Champion? frankly, I just couldn't see it. I could see him challenging for the TNT championship. I could see him possibly becoming the TNT champion. As far as getting to that level of being in the main event, I mean, anything's possible. Anyone can get over. But right now, considering how his WWE career went, considering not the reputation, but I suppose the status he has, I always felt that Impact was the best move for him post WWE in the first place. Why? Because, again, he can win a world championship in Impact Wrestling. He can be an Impact World Champion. So I always felt that going to Impact Wrestling was the best thing for him. Now, in terms of his status, we don't know if he signed a contract with Impact Wrestling. We don't know what his current status is with Impact. We don't know if he's full-time. We don't know if like his deal with AEW, if it's a short-term deal. Frankly, we just don't know right now. I'm sure we'll find out more. I would suspect, considering that he was at last night's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, and considering that Impact Wrestling tapes a multitude of TV at one time, he's at least going to be on Impact Wrestling TV for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, because I'm assuming that's how long they'll tape over the course of the next week or so. They'll probably take 4, 5, 6 weeks of TV for Impact Wrestling on Access TV. If that is the case, then that means Matt Cardona is on at least 6 weeks worth of Impact Wrestling television, considering how they tape TV and what I think a prominent position he'll be in for Impact Wrestling going forward. I would think that he is going to probably be around a little bit longer than he was around in AEW. I think maybe he looked at the landscape when it came to AEW and said, you know what? Obviously, I back myself, and I know that the talent I have, and I know that I am a recognizable name and a well-known name for my time in WWE. I know what I can offer, and I know what I have to offer, but that AEW roster, and I say this a lot of the time about WWE stars or Impact stars when they consider going to AEW, that AEW roster is a very loaded roster. And that's not a bad thing, but it just means it's a very cramped roster. They've got a lot of people under contract, and they don't have a lot of TV time. They've got 2 hours per week on TNT. That's it right now. We know that a third hour is coming. We just don't know when. It was for December, and now December's come and gone. We don't know when that's going to happen. Yes, they have AEW Dark on YouTube, but frankly, Matt Cardona would want to be on TV every single week. So I think maybe Matt Cardona did look at the landscape and say, you know what, I could be tied down into a long-term deal with AEW. The money would be good. Obviously, the environment there is very, very good too, and I'm working with Cody Rhodes, and I'm working with people that I enjoy working with, but at this period of time, after, 10 years in WWE of being misused and getting to a level and then being stifled, being told to break through that glass ceiling that doesn't exist, I've got to make a right decision now when it comes to my career. I've got to make a right decision about what's best for me right now. Where can I really flourish? And that's Impact. For me, in my opinion, that's Impact right now. Zack Ryder can be on a main event level in Impact Wrestling. And this is what I've been saying, not just about Matt Cardona, but about Impact in general, is that Impact needs top babyfaces right now. They have very strong heels, whether it's Moose, Kenny Omega, I know he's an AEW guy, but he's on the TV every week. They've got an Ace Austin. They've got all of these names that are top heels. But you do have to wonder about these top babyfaces. Where are the top babyfaces in Impact? The top babyface right now is Rich Swann because he's the world champion. I mean, who else do you look at that's the real top babyface? Eddie Edwards. He won the world championship, didn't hold on to it for very long. No disrespect to them. They do have potential, and they've been with the company a while. But in terms of a top tier babyface that you can really build the company around, you can really have the company on your back. I mean, Matt Cardona, I think, is a level up. I do think he's a level up in terms of name recognition, in terms of star power, in terms of the look, in terms of everything. He really is just the next level. So I think Impact, again, we don't know the status of his contract details right now, if he has a contract with Impact. We know Impact has money. I think the discussion about, could Impact offer him the money that AEW offered Matt Cardona? They could. I mean, if you get into a pure bidding contest, I'm not sure if Impact can compete with AEW on that kind of things. I mean, the Khan family are billionaires, but in terms of Impact being owned by Anthem, one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to Impact Wrestling is that they don't have a big budget or they don't have a lot of funding. You might look at their TV show and you might look at the small arena that they work in Skyway Studios there in Nashville, Tennessee, and you might see the empty arena and all that kind of stuff, and you might think, they don't have a lot of money. Impact does. They're owned by Anthem, who own Access TV. They own a lot of stuff, and they are a very wealthy company. So this idea that Impact couldn't afford Matt Cardona, frankly, is laughable. So Matt Cardona could get a very good deal, a very, very good deal with Impact Wrestling, and maybe he will going forward. So certainly was a surprise. I enjoyed that he faced off against Ace Austin. I would love for this to be a feud that continues. We've mentioned before, time and time again here on the channel, that for me it was very confusing and frustrating, I think, that Ace Austin wasn't being used on TV towards the latter end of 2020 when he should have been. Obviously, he's had a much more successful 2021 already by winning the Super X Cup tournament. I felt that that was a platform for him to be involved in the X Division Championship scene. It still might be, but if we're looking at a situation now where he could be feuding with Matt Cardona going forward, that's a big thumbs up. That's a feud I really want to see. That's a feud I'm really interested in. And I think it's a feud that elevates Ace Austin by working with a big name like Matt Cardona. So I'm all for that. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Obviously, you could see a scenario as well there whereby, look, Hard to Kill, the match ended in a disqualification because Madman Fulton got involved. We know Brian Myers is currently working with Impact, so it wouldn't be a massive stretch, to say the least, that if we see Brian Myers team up with Matt Cardona and then we have a tag team sort of feud where Matt Cardona and Brian Myers face off against Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. And frankly, I would really enjoy Matt Cardona and Brian Myers to get involved in their Impact World Tag Team Championship scene anyway. We've got some good tag teams in Impact. It looks like obviously we're going to be losing the North because of the whole Ethan Page situation as well. So they need more tag teams to come in. I think the tag team situation, if he does tag team up with Brian Myers going forward, I do think personally, I think that should be limited because I think Matt Cardona's best use at this point for Impact Wrestling going forward is in the main event scene, is challenging for World Championships, because I think this is really a big opportunity, I think, for Matt Cardona to truly get to prove to people, look, people doubted me my whole career. People said that I was just the woo-woo-woo guy, you know it, broski, all that kind of stuff. I now have the opportunity to prove I can be a world champion. And I think he can be in Impact. So it was a very, very surprising thing, to say the least. No one had heard any rumours about it. It was kept very much under wraps. But a good surprise and something that I'm very glad we did see last night. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Matt Cardona making his Impact Wrestling debut last night at Hard to Kill? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, WWE, AEW, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.